Have you ever heard that athletes do not love God? Well, we all know that that's a lie. It could go either way, right? But today we're going to talk about that very thing with Wayne Robinson. Now, I'm going to call him Pop because I can't call him Wayne. It just seems weird for me. But my name is Monica Michelle, and I am the solutionist marketer. I'm the founder of Monica Michelle Marketing, and I'm known for developing winning digital marketing strategies that shift businesses from being the best kept secrets to well-known experts with multiple revenue streams. Today, we are diving into our latest episode of Committed to Growth, and we're having these micro conversations with industry experts talking about how they're committed to growth and what they do and how they help people also continue to grow. Before we dive too deep into it, Pop, tell us, who are you? What you doing? I know you are here talking with the FCA or talking on behalf of the FCA. So tell us a little bit more about what you guys do.
Thank you very much, Monica. Really appreciate the opportunity to spend some time with you. And it's always a pleasure to have occasions like this where we can share information, knowledge, wisdom with audiences that are interested in learning more about how to improve their career path, but also learn how to network, learn how to become greater assets as they are building relationships with people. And that's been something that I have certainly benefited from over the years. And then to be able to share it with a listening audience that is attentive is always a pleasure. For me, having been in the space for quite a long time, it gives me an opportunity to just look at my life's journey, how I've been blessed to not only be a leader in the Fellowship of Christian Athletes, but also to be a part of ministry, to be a part of industry, to have an opportunity to spend a lot of quality time training young people who are just starting off in their career, whether it be in athletics, whether it be in business, just social development, and then also to instruct and to be a part of instruction with experienced leaders in industries across a very broad frontier and learning how to take best practices and apply them in every aspect of your life. Now, even though I've been around a long time, Monica, I certainly can continue to grow and glean wisdom from others. So today I have an opportunity to share some of my experiences with those who I'm hoping will take it and utilize it in some aspect that would help them to grow, to be more successful in their lives.
Absolutely. That's one thing that I've always enjoyed about watching you over the span that we've known each other, because it's been what, 20 some odd years
Yes.
that we met when I was first born. And so to be able to see how you've accepted change, how you've commanded change, and how you've processed and went through change has been something that I've always admired to watch you do it from afar. And then at the time when we were in the same city and working together on some projects, I was able to see it that way too. And it was always a neat and an interesting thing to see how you grew through changes and situations and how you still remain committed to what the main thing was. So that's definitely something that I find favorable. How do you assist athletes in figuring that out and figuring out what their main thing is and how what they should be focusing on? Because when you're in school and you're playing sports, a lot of times that's all I might care about. And so to be worried about, oh, I got to get a job after this, or what the career development side of it or the networking side, if it wasn't directly related to sports, some people don't care. So how do you shape that total view thinking of being in school and maximizing that moment?
Right. And that's a great question. And unfortunately, we've seen a lot of athletes over the decades not come up with the best solutions or come out with the most favorable results because of a lack of planning. Athletics in this day and time is far different from when I was playing some 30, 40 years ago, when you didn't have social media, you didn't have as much influence from corporate investors, and just in terms of commercialization of sports as a whole, across every sport, it just didn't exist. So most guys could, and gals could, enter into a sport, keep a focus, and not be as distracted. Doesn't mean that there weren't temptations and that there weren't opportunities to get off on the beaten path, but you just didn't have as many things flooding your immediate space on a day in and day out basis. Nevertheless, the principles of focusing on priorities, setting goals and objectives, making sure you've got good people around, that didn't change. It didn't change. Let me put it this way. It was the same when I was coming along, and it should be the same today. However, it's a much more challenging endeavor for a lot of young people today because they do have more distractions. So let's break this down. A young athlete, male, female, black, white, yellow, red, doesn't matter what sport, has made a decision that they are going to follow this career path. They really believe that they are called to be an athlete. at the high school level, college level, maybe even professional level. And so they've got to be able to prioritize their time, making sure they're giving their best to improve upon their skill set and hopefully be an impact if they're participating in a team sport or even if they are in an individual sport. So that's important. However, athletics to me is really a means to an end. That is to say, that even though you may have a desire as a young person to want to play at the professional level, recognize that you're only one injury away from not being able to play that sport. Now, I don't wish that on anybody, but it happens all the time. So, in order for us to be effective and to really understand the importance of how to gain success, we've got to make sure we have options. And that doesn't mean that you compromise what you're doing in your sport, but you also have to realize that without an education, it's very difficult for you to be successful outside the boundaries of the sport you're playing. So I tell people all the time, even as you are successful in your specific sport, don't lose out on the opportunity to receive an education, strong knowledge and wisdom through classes and training and development, through whoever may be in your circle, to make sure you are a well-rounded, not only athlete, but a student athlete. It doesn't matter even if you're older. There's always room to learn. And athletes need to understand that behind the sport that they may be playing, there is a business aspect to it. And in order for you to be most effective in knowing who you are and what value you bring, not only to the sport, but also to the marketplace, you need to know a little bit about business, at least the X's and O's. So you start at a young age, and I've tried to help young people understand that, yes, it's important to play. Yes, it's important to have fun, and you want to win and be successful. But you also have to understand that there is a business model, or at least a economic engine that's behind the sport that you play, that you can learn about and hopefully take advantage of, Monica, as you grow. Today, high school players, through this whole process called NIL, name, image, and likeness, young people are getting paid in high school and in college on into the pros. So that in itself should be highlighted. It should be focused and understood, because if not, you can be even more distracted by the possibilities of earning money at an earlier age for a sport that you love, and then lose track on the fact that you still got to be a good student and wind up putting yourself in a situation whereby you may be earning a little bit of money, but it's really not a lot. And then you don't have an education to go along with it. And then something happens, and all of a sudden, now you've lost your dream. You haven't been able to capture the income. And now you become, let's just say, less than excited and even successful in the sport that you may be participating in. So the point to take here is make sure you're around people who know something about you, your sport, and your future, so that they can help you become a better decision maker, problem solver, and a critical thinker. Better decision maker, problem solver, and critical thinker around whatever you're doing, so that when you enter into that sport and you do the things that you believe you've been called to do, you're more likely to be a success as you move forward, especially in this day and time.
Look, here we go. It's really interesting that you say that the decision maker, the problem solver, and the critical thinking, the different aspects of playing the sports and being in school, because while those things are extremely important to keep your eye on the total picture, because no one knows what's going to happen tomorrow, no one knows the future, it also relates to business. So a lot of our listeners may be business owners right now, and in the midst of them being business owners, a lot of times it's like, no, I just want to do this one thing because this is the one thing that I really love. And maybe you haven't planned out for the future. You haven't made the best decision so that you could say, okay, I have longevity in this, just as our athletes, or you don't even understand the total business of it and figuring out how to problem solve and having that right team and community around you. So one thing that athletes are typically known for, at least the better athletes, is high performance and the hyper focus of really locking in and committing to their thing. So how do you encourage someone that is like, no, I just want to play football. I'm trying to run the ball. I know the plays up, down, left, and right. How do you get them to even consider learning what the coach does in the front office and just learning more of the business side of all of that? How do you get them to change their view and find time to do it? Because if I like football, all I want to do is play football.
That's a great question, Monica. And we have to stop and pause for a moment and ask ourselves the question, how many athletes regardless of the sport, really want to look beyond just what they are doing. And the percentages are not as high as you think. And that's why you don't have as many athletes that become coaches. And then unfortunately, you don't have as many athletes that are becoming successful outside of their sport because they haven't diversified. They haven't looked at what are some of the possible advantages and benefits of learning more about the sport and how the sport should be played and executed beyond just what they do. It's just like if you look at the game of basketball, which I played for a number of years, you can play 5 positions, but really the key person on that team is the point guard. He's like a quarterback on a football team. He or she has to know basically what everybody's doing and how they are to execute if the team is going to be successful. So that doesn't mean that the center or the forward can't learn, but it's a decision you have to make if you want to really understand the bigger picture around the team's ability to succeed and to regardless of the challenges that they may face. It's like, again, like a quarterback on a football team. The quarterback's the most valuable position on the offensive side because he is the one who looks at every single person on the offense. He knows the defense. He knows the alignments. He can quickly discern and determine what's going to be the best options. That person is a critical thinker, right? They are trying to solve problems before the play even opens up. They also realize that it takes a certain mindset and a certain level of preparation even before the game. Hey, let's take that, translate it into the business world. If we know that we're going to be facing challenges because there's no business that doesn't face challenges, we've got to be prepared, which means we've got to make sure that whatever the plan is written down correctly, that people can understand it because you've got to explain it. It's not going to be as easy as you think. So you've got to kind of wade through some of the potential problems. You're almost forecasting challenges that you may have. What are some of the possible solutions? And then when you reach an outcome, is it the one that you were actually looking to achieve? If not, what could you have done better? So you have to do a post-op. You got to go back and say, oh, we did this, this, and this, didn't quite get to where we wanted to. How can we improve upon the product or service? Just like an athlete has to decide, how do I improve upon my game preparation and my execution so I'll be better the next time I go out than I was in the previous experience? Monica, athletes, when they think that way holistically, a lot of them who have an opportunity to step into the business world actually are pretty successful. That's the ones that really take the time to want to learn just more than what they are actually doing in their own specific position. An opportunity years ago, because my background is finance and accounting, to work as an internship in college in a bank. And I had a chance to work at a local bank here, which was doing a lot of great work in the community. And I found that the boss that I was under as I was doing my internship was a former football player. And he was also the city manager of that bank. Well, interestingly, every day we would go in for a meeting. It was almost like you were going into a huddle for a football game. This guy would be talking about X's and O's and sharing experiences that he had, not so much from the standpoint of the actual game, but just how to handle challenges. And the people were looking at him strangely, but they understood the principles. And he was very successful as a city manager because he understood through almost an athletic lens how to handle situations that happen in the banking world. And that always stood out with me. I said, God, this is really important to take these principles, these fundamentals on how to address situations and come away with a better strategy, if you will, on how to overcome obstacles and then accept success and move forward. So that was one of many experiences I've had with seeing an athlete being able to translate from the athletic field into the business community and be successful.
That's definitely something that is interesting because I haven't seen anyone be as direct with it or open with it. You just kind of figure it out because you understand the sport and you're like, hey, did you do this? And that's how I've seen it in the past. Right. So for him to talk about it so openly and clearly, the delineation was probably a pretty neat experience. Oh. One thing that the FCA is known for, I'm sure you get the athletes all together. And I guess, quick side note, I recently heard someone say, if a principle is true, it's true no matter where you put it. So for him to be able to say, I established this principle of we ran the play, we're looking back at the play, and then we're figuring out how to comb through it and do it again and do it better, and then apply it to the banking industry is probably a pretty neat thing because that's the same principle that he's applying to different places.
Right, that's right.
So the tools and things that you learn as an athlete is definitely something that you can cross into other places. So
Right.
one thing that the FCA does, I'm asking, do you all get athletes together, or do you even get the athletes together from different sports? Or is it like just the football FCA here and like, how does that work? Does that give them opportunity to sharpen each other or find more like-mindedness, or how do you all do there in the triad?
Right. Let me just give you a brief infomercial. FCA was started in 1954. It has been around a long time. It's one of the largest parachurch ministries in the country. In fact, in the world. We're currently in 109 countries across the globe. It is, without question, one of the most impactful ministries for student athletes, male and female, all the Olympic sports that you'll find that currently exist. By its nature, FCA is designed to help young people, athletes, and coaches come into a greater relationship with Jesus Christ. It's to create an environment which is conducive for them to grow, because athletes' challenges are unique. If you think about school, high school, middle school, college, and even the pros, there's a lot of situations that are indigenous to this particular community that they don't feel comfortable sharing with people outside of the athletic community. So bringing them together on a weekly basis to have a chance to share, to listen, to learn Christian fundamentals, and then to take those fundamentals, here again, and apply them in their lives as athletes will impact them on the field and can impact their peers as well as those who are non-athletes. So here's the setting. Let's just use high school, for example. Once a week, a high school will come together, typically for about 30 minutes, because in the course of a day, it's kind of hard to squeeze it in. So a lot of times FCA huddle meetings will happen either before school, either maybe at lunchtime or at the end of the day, depending on the schedules, because that's really tough, especially if you're trying to combine the various sports. Typically that happens. We have what we call multi-sport gatherings or multi-sport huddles, where we will bring football, baseball, basketball, lacrosse, tennis, soccer, volleyball. They will come together at an appointed time for roughly about 30 minutes. It's a student-led and student-directed organization. So the fun thing is we get a chance to train leaders, give them the tools, show them the fundamentals, and then empower them, equip them so that they can actually lead their peers into a growing, more mature relationship with the Lord. Now, in the course of that 30 minutes, a lot of things can happen, but they typically have a welcome, a warm up with an icebreaker. They have maybe a 10-minute devotional, and then they do a wrap up where answer questions. And there are adults who are in the midst that if a question is a little bit beyond someone's pay grade, can't really answer it, they're not really sure where to find it in the Bible, maybe an adult could step in, provide some insight to help them so that when they leave, they're stronger in their faith than they were before they came. So then they get excited because now they're finding solutions to some of the challenges they have through the Word of God. And they get excited enough that they tell their friends. So a huddle in a particular high school may start out with 20, 30 student athletes, and they can grow double, triple, quadruple. We've got schools here in the Triad that have more than 200 student athletes that are meeting every single week. They're having a great time growing in their faith. They're learning more about Christ. They're sharing experiences, both challenges as well as victories. And then they're finding out that it's important for them to share with other student athletes and non-athletes the importance of being Christ-centered in everything that they do. So FCA has a wonderful platform. We are in over 180 schools in the Triad. So it's really a blessing. We send hundreds of kids to camp every summer. College students go away during their winter break and they have a chance to get together and bond. We bring in guest speakers for banquets, and we have cornhole tournaments and pickleball tournaments and all these things to continue to build fellowship around not only the student athletes, but also supporters from the community. The church is getting involved. We've got volunteers that come from churches. And what we're seeing is a expanding footprint whereby FCA is making a huge difference in the lives of a lot of people in the Triad throughout the United States and the world.
Wow, I did not know, one, that the FCA has expanded so much there, let alone in other countries, as many other countries as you've. So that is definitely something that is interesting, especially to see or to hear how the students are getting together and leading those conversations there. They're feeling empowered and they're having the tools, and then they have that backup of support in the room with them to help moving forward. Because no matter where industry you're in, whether you're an athlete or not, one thing that we can't deny is community. Like, be in a space where you're with people that have similar goals to you, or they have similar, but at the same time, they're willing to grow and expand and to learn more, and that they're okay with us not really agreeing that football is better than basketball or pickleball is better than cornhole or whatever the case may be, but we're
Right.
all together and being on the same page and having conversations. That's a really cool thing.
It is. And we raise money for a lot of different things, but the most important thing right here is this student Bible. We have Bibles that are set aside just for student athletes. You see it right there. And it has a lot of neat examples beyond just the Word of God that is just for an athlete to take and to apply in their life. And so we put these in the hands of every single one of our athletes, no cost to them. I mean, we raise funds all year long so that they can have those. We've got devotionals, we've got T-shirts, we've got lanyards, we've got everything to create that environment that is enjoyable, that's attractive for them to come and feel as though they're a part of a growing community. And so when you think about that, how much the athletes change because they're listening to other athletes sharing their stories. You remember the days back when we were doing youth church stuff and just had so much stuff going on. Similarly, young people want to feel confident in an environment that allows them to open up and be themselves. And so when you think about it, athletes feel the same way. And I'll say two things I want to share. Dr. Billy Graham, who in many people's opinion, led more people to our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ and probably any minister in maybe a century or more, said this. He said, a student athlete and a coach has more influence over the schools that they may be in than anybody else. Student athletes and coaches, and they are on point, and they're moral. They have a strong moral focus and a moral compass, really understand the value of making good decisions. Their impact is unbelievable. And because of that, we have to continue to invest our time, talent, and treasure in helping them. And then the other thing is, when you have an FCA community that's vibrant, it can change an entire community because of the work that's being done through the athletes and coaches to help to stimulate and to change people's thoughts about how to live their lives in a way that will be beneficial to everyone that they come in contact with.
Yeah, definitely. That every school you can't deny that the students are watching and looking after the athletes. They don't always mimic the athletes. They don't always, but they do have a great sphere of influence while they're there, because they're almost like a thermometer or a gauger. They're able to set the gauge, right? Now, if anyone's ever trying to get involved with the FCA, especially in the triad, the best place to go is triad, TRIAD, FCA.org. So we'll put that up so you can check out some of the other things that you guys have going on, as well as make a donation if that's something that you're interested in doing to kind of drive that forward, those continual conversations with athletes and getting them and growing their faith. So I have a question for you. And the whole time is not. So this is actually our last question, and we'll be able to wrap up off of this. But if someone is ready, whether they're an athlete or not, if they're ready to get their life in a more whole view and kind of figure out how they can grow and how to move forward, you have to figure out, okay, I'm playing sports and I just don't play sports. I have other aspects that I need to be aware of. I can't put all my time into sports. How a good first step or a good thing for them to remember or to do?
Well, again, expression is not what you know, but who you know. It's not what you know, but who you know. I encourage anyone to find a mentor. And I know that's not easy because lots of people say they want to be mentors, but they don't really want to invest the time that it takes to help young people to take the right steps. But if you can find someone who you've seen has been successful, they even have affluence, that's a great start. They're interested in you, they have influence and affluence, then you can feel confident in knowing that they didn't get there just on their own. So when they're speaking to you, they're speaking with substance from a body of experience. If you find that kind of person or persons, and I was fortunate to find several people like that, it really helped me to shape and mold my thinking and my behavior in the early stages of my career development. So if you can do that, and it may take prayer, but it certainly, you got to be very observant and listen to people and where they are in their walk, then that could be a wonderful first step to having someone to give you the feedback that you need about some of the decisions that you're making. And then as you're looking at your life's plan, whether it's athletics, whether it's just a career-based plan that has nothing to do with athletics at all, be willing to share it, but you got to make sure it makes sense. Okay, it makes sense to you and you don't have a problem exposing it, then be ready to take good notes as someone who cares about you will give you positive feedback that will help you to improve upon the plan that you have. Now we got to execute. You got to take that plan that you said works or you believe works, and you got to look at stage 1, 2, 3, 4, how many ever stages you have, and you got to make sure that you're executing every single day. Because at the end of the day, the only person that can hold you most accountable is yourself. You have to be accountable to you. And if you are, and you're working hard, and you've got someone that can help to coach you up and coach you through situations, then you're more likely to not only succeed, but also to have a game plan that you can share with someone else when the time is appropriate. So that's my word of encouragement. Do that. And let's see what happens over the next couple of weeks and months as to how well you are able to address your needs and then take on responsibilities as you see success coming your way.
Yeah, that's a really neat thing about a mentor, or having a coach, or having someone to kind of go along that's kind of further down the road is that they're able to say, hey, I made this mistake. Don't do that. Do this. Hey, it took me 50 times to get this right. Let me tell you the correct path to get it done. So it'll save you so much time and headache.
That's right. You're right.
He's the one to knock you upside the head every blue moon.
That's true.
I want to say thanks so much, Pop, for taking this time to join us and talk about the FCA, as well as how athletes are very similar to business owners and how they have to go through and figure out better decision making and problem solving and critical thinking, because all those things are important no matter which one you're in, if you're an athlete or if you're running your own business or thinking about doing it. So you are committed to growth, which you are, because you are watching this podcast. You are listening now. We thank you so much. So make sure you share this with someone else who is currently a business owner or just thinking about doing it, and they're trying to figure out where to start. And don't forget, the next episode is going to be just as juicy and have all the tips and all the nuggets in it. So we'll see you over there. Bye.
I know.